Hello, everyone. My name is Darrh Bullock. I'm one of the UK beef specialists, and my primary area is genetics. And I'll be talking to you a little bit later. But as for those of you that have been on and done this with us in the past, this is one of our shooting the bull sessions, and that's where basically we're going to each kind of go through and explain maybe a hot topic item that's happening in our particular area. And then after each individual, if you have a question, the easiest way to do it is put it in the chat, uh, and we'll take a look and get it from there. If we ignore you, then you can unmute and chime in, and we'll catch you that way. But we'll have these discussions, and then at any questions, and any question is a game question. Because if I don't know it, we'll pass it on to somebody that does. And so we'll try and get all of them answered. So to get us started tonight, I'm going to actually turn it over to Dr. Kenny Burdine. You're first on my list, Kenny. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and appreciate you being with us this evening.
He's first on everybody's list, Dr. Bullock.
Don't know about all that, but thank you anyway. I just put together a couple slides real quick here to talk through and kind of current event stuff. So I will assume we're good. If not, let me know. Just want to talk
That's
about
good.
the last few weeks in the cattle market. So, we were shrugging off everything even remotely negative up until the middle of October, and then October 16th, kind of the broad statement was made about wanting a lower beef price. It didn't fundamentally change anything, but in my opinion, what it did is it forced this market to look through everything that happened the next few weeks through the lens of that statement. So everything potentially bearish, in my opinion, got priced in twice in about 6 weeks there. The increase in the TRQ from Argentina, the reduction of tariffs on Brazilian imports, the Tyson plant there in Nebraska that was closed, and then we still don't have clarification on if and when we're going to resume live cattle imports from Mexico. But basically, every single one of those things was viewed negatively after that statement was made. January feeders dropped about $70, I think 73 and change, from basically from October 16th to the Monday of Thanksgiving week. We've gained back about half of that on the board. And what I pulled up there for on the right side is that's the January, which is the nearby feeder cattle futures price. You can kind of see what happened since mid-October. And you can kind of see our bottom here Thanksgiving week, and you can kind of see where we are right now. I don't like to show these weekly data, but this is weekly Kentucky data. This is 550-pound steers and 850-pound steers. Just to make two quick comments. Number one, our cash prices never fell as hard as the board did. That black line there is our 5 weight steer calves state average. When you look at where we were in October to where we are now, that's about what the seasonal decline would be. And really, like I said, the same thing on 7, 8, or about the same thing on the 8 weights. The the real bottom there is that week of Thanksgiving. There was just no volume those weeks, so it's an anomaly. That's one reason why I don't like to show weekly data, but just to illustrate the change in the last 6 weeks, I wanted to do that. I'll kind of wrap up with just kind of some big picture thoughts going forward. The real inventory driver this year has been cow slaughter. Beef cow slaughter is down about 18%. So we're on track. We've got 5 weeks left that I'm waiting on data for, but we're on track to kill about 500,000 fewer cows, beef cows, this year than last year. And with a cow herd that's under 30 million, that matters. We're in the ballpark of 1.82% of our cow inventory. Um, that's going to more than offset heifer retention. So we're going to see a small increase in the cow herd next year, just simply due to the fact that we've kept these cows around longer. So calf crop will be slightly larger. That'll be easily offset with any heifer retention. At some point, I think we're going to see some. I'm hearing anecdotal stuff, but there's no data I can point to yet the national level. Again, the wild card's Mexico. That could definitely change our feeder cattle supply somewhat. Pre the screw worm, Mexican imports accounted for about 4 to 5% of our feeder cattle supply. Um, when things were rolling for the 2 months here in the spring of this year, we were at about 60% of where we'd been. So I still think it's pretty minor volume wise when it happens, but I do think it matters. Our fed cattle supplies can't grow quickly, even if we did resume imports from Mexico. We're 6 to 8 months away from seeing larger fed cattle slaughter. So production of beef is going to get lower before it gets bigger. There's no question about that. Bottom line, I look for another good year in the cow calf sector. Fall calvers will get better prices for their calves spring of 2026 than they did 2025. I have a hard time projecting that we hit the same levels we hit those summer and fall of last year. So that kind of July to middle of October time period. I don't really quite get that high in 2026, but another good year. Margin operations will be tighter. We're not going to see as much black ink going in as we did last year. We really made our money on continual price improvement in 2025 for 9.5 months out of the year. But I think there'll be opportunity, but I don't think that the margin will be near as attractive. And I think this volatility is going to stick around. So same old story about risk management strategies. I'll close with that there.
Appreciate it, Kenny. So I guess I'm gonna jump in with a quick question. If anybody has a question, put them in the chat. But I'm just wondering, Kenny, we never get mad at our weathermen when they miss a forecast. I know yours is a little different maybe than the weatherman, but looking at this thing a little bit longer term out there, what are you thinking? Any prognosticating?
You're saying beyond 26 there?
Yes.
So it's going to take us a while to grow this cow herd. That's the good news. It's probably 3 to 4 years before we see any sizable increase in the size of the calf crop. What I will say is what we started to see in 2014, 15 is just starting to happen. It's not just about beef supply, it's about all proteins. And we're going to see about a 3.5% increase in in broiler production, right? That's the one that can respond the quickest to high protein values in sheep feed, and we're seeing that. We're not seeing it in the hog sector yet, but I think that'll be the next one to watch. So I'm still optimistic about the next 2 to 3 years, but I feel like that either what we saw, well, my best guess is that we set our calf market highs in 2025. Well, I think we'll be very close to that in 2026, but still strong in 2027 and probably 2028 is kind of my take on it there.
Okay. I won't put any more pressure on you than that. So, good. That's good to hear anyway. I mean, it's always good to hear it on the positive side, and might not turn out as good as we hope, but still. All right. If you have any questions for Kenny, again, just pop them in the chat. Dr. Anderson, I'm going to move on to you. You said you were going to be brief. If you are, it'd be the first time, I think, since I've known you, but we'll give it a shot and see how you go.
All right, pressure's on. Any questions? Obviously, not too much to update on right now in Repro. We're just starting or within 2 or 3 weeks in the fall calving season. Preparing, hopefully, you're thinking about preparing for your spring calving season. Couple of main things right now. So far, even though the weather's been really chilly, our estrus responses have been very good. I know most of you know that I participate in a lot of AI in the fall and the spring, and estrus response has been exceptional. We've had really good luck this year with the 7-and-7 system that Dr. Thomas at the University of Missouri developed. And so if you want information on that, just go to our extension websites. But right now, I mean, we're getting nearly 95% estrus response using that system. So really tickled with that. Main thing with this cold weather moving in, gotta pay attention to body condition score, and I'm sure Dr. Lehmkuhler and Kevin might even touch on this, but we can't have the cattle losing a ton of weight right now. As the temperature goes down, energy requirements, protein requirements go up. So let's make sure that we can continue to feed high quality feeds and meet their nutrient needs, at least to attempt to maintain weight. Because we can get them in heat and conception can occur, but if they lose weight, we can get a lot of early embryonic loss, and that'll be kind of tough. For your fall calving herds, the last thing to think about is go ahead and start thinking about your preg check. Contact your herd veterinarian, get some dates on the schedule now. They're going to get really busy in the spring, and so go ahead and get a date to come in. Work with them on figuring out what the good time for them to preg check is as far as what stage, and start preparing for pregnancy diagnosis. It's going to be pretty important this year to not feed open cows. And so let's go ahead and start planning on that now. And with that, Dr. Bullock, I think that's all the repro. Continue to watch your cows. If you're seeing a lot of return heats, rotate your bull out. Get that bull out, get another one in there, see if he can get the job done. Hopefully they have all passed the BSE. So sometimes bulls just lose the ability to get cows pregnant, and just pay attention and make notes. And if you see a large estrus return rate, go ahead and swap the bull out and let somebody else have a chance. So that's all I got, Dr. Bullock.
All right, so you spoke about bull fertility, so I'm gonna have you give the crowd a little bit of a teaser for February, if you would, our webinar in February.
February the 12th, Dr. Pedro Fontes from University of Georgia is going to be giving a presentation on bull nutrition and how that impacts fertility. He has some absolutely groundbreaking and fascinating work on feeding management of bulls and how that impacts fertilization, embryonic growth and development, loss of pregnancies, because there's so much that we are discovering now, and Pedro is a major driving force on that. But we are really learning some fascinating new aspects on bull nutrition, and I'm confident that his presentation will blow everybody away.
Excellent. Appreciate it, Dr. Anderson. So next, I'm going to move to Dr. Michelle Arnold. She's our extension veterinarian out at the diagnostic lab. Appreciate you being on tonight, Dr. Arnold, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Darrh. I've got a couple of things to share. Let's see if I can get that on. You disabled my participant screen sharing, so can you let me on?
Should be good to go now.
That's got it. Good. Okay. All right. So we've been talking a lot amongst our group, the extension specialists, about the ergoveiling problems we had this year. Lots of fescue problems with the cows that didn't get pregnant. They weren't even showing heat. And then plus we had a lot of weak calves born in the fall. So we've started talking more about ergoveiling testing. Let me actually see if I can, well, let's talk about this first. I did, every time I get into the conversation on fescue, we always get around to, the solution to it is diluting the toxicity with clovers. And hopefully red clover, because it's got the isoflavones. So someone, and it invariably happens, somebody says, if we put clover out, then we're going to have bloat. We increase the bloat risk, which is true. And it does increase the risk. And so someone asked me about this clover, Berseem clover, which evidently is supposed to be a low bloat variety. I'd never heard of it, so I looked it up and sent it out to the group. Brittany Harlow knew about it, and she said there's one variety called Frosty Berseem. That sounds like a football player's name. And Frosty Berseem is the only clover with biocanon A content close to red clover. So that's one that they're looking at. I think they're going to start putting it into the variety trials possibly. But there must be some advertisement of it, or I wouldn't get asked about it. I'm not sure where it was advertised, but you might see this. And evidently it is something that is worth watching. Okay. The other thing I wanted to show, let's see here. Just a second. I know I'm taking a long time. I'm sorry. If you want to do ergovaline sampling of your fescue, we have these guidelines on our website, and on the UKVDL website, on how to take the right samples. A couple of things you really need to do is when you submit your fescue samples, make sure you specify what species will be grazing it. You know, if it's going to be horses, it's going to be cattle, sheep and goats. We need to know that in order to put the right interpretation at the end. And the second thing you need to do when you're sampling is be looking at the pasture and see how much of that pasture, what percent is made up of fescue, because that goes into the final calculation. So kind of be aware, you know, of what you're doing when you're sampling, and try to get a ballpark of how much fescue is there. Okay. Now, one other quick thing I wanted to talk about is that we seem to be getting some pushback now for some reason about vaccinating anything, vaccinating cattle, vaccinating pets. It's kind of this whole general idea that vaccine is bad. And so, you know, I had a really good case, which I'll share pictures from really quickly. Oops, I got to put my share on. Hold it. Share. Okay. And this one. Okay. So this was a case. Can you all see that picture? Okay. Hello. Can you see it?
Got it. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So this is a calf here that was, this was a producer. They say they weaned their calves. They kept two. One was a heifer to keep as a replacement. The other one was a steer that they were going to feed out for freezer beef. And they didn't want to vaccinate them, didn't want to vaccinate for anything. So the heifer calf died about a week after it was weaned, and this steer presented about 4 days after the heifer. He's got this horrible facial edema. You know, his eyes are swollen shut. He had hemorrhage. He had bloody hemorrhage. You know, blood coming from both nostrils, and could barely breathe. I mean, I have a video of him. He's got a kind of snuffling sound when he tries to breathe. And he was dead. He presented in the evening and was dead the following morning. So when he came to necropsy, it's kind of a gross picture, so don't, you know, this was what it looked like when they took the skin off of his head. And actually, we had to call the owner and ask, had they shot him? Because he was so hemorrhagic. You know, this was just an incredibly hemorrhagic presentation. So, and he had not. This calf had died naturally. And so when we went on into the rest of the necropsy, this is actually a picture of the tongue. That's the base of the tongue, and that's where this case of blackleg was in the tongue, which is it's unusual. It's not, you know, we usually see it in the gluteal muscles and the hips and the thighs. And so, you know, but we rarely see that kind of presentation in the head. So I guess the bottom line is the vaccine's really safe. It's been around since 1930. And it's really effective. And it's the only thing we have for blackleg that's a prevention. So if you don't use it, you run the risk of losing some really valuable animals. And just I'll take the nasty pictures off, but so all right, don't save. There we go. So anyway, that's and then I had a BVD case today. Fetus submitted, and its cow was due in February and tested positive for BVD, both on PCR and also it was a PI calf. So, again, no history of vaccination in the cattle. So these things are real. We see them and we see, this is not a one-off thing. So just encourage everybody to keep vaccinating. It is really effective. That's all I've got.
All righty, I appreciate it. If you have any questions for Dr. Arnold, pop them in the chat. I'm seeing several things come up. Some of them are a bit on the general side, so I think I'm going to hold off for now on those. We'll keep moving and we'll get to those, I promise you, before we're done. I'm going to turn it over now to Kevin Laurent, one of our extension specialists out in the Princeton side of the world. And so I think, Kevin, I'm going to let you go. Appreciate it.
All right, let me see if I can get my screen shared here. I'm not seeing my... Is that working?
Not yet.
No, that is not working.
Not been your day.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I know, but
Hey,
now we're
there we
cooking
go.
now. We are cooking now. All right. All right. Can y'all see that? Not yet.
Yeah.
There
Well,
we go.
it's not, there you go.
All right. I'm going to be relatively quick. I just thought it'd be kind of interesting. Kind of goes back to what Kenny was presenting as far as how what happened with the markets this past fall, past 6 weeks. Got a lot of questions, from folks who routinely precondition and selling, CPH sales or preconditioned sales that we have, kind of regretting, should I just sold them back in September, October kind of thing. And there's no good answer there until we see how things play out. And luckily, the last couple of weeks that market did recover, especially on the cash side. So I thought it'd just make a little quick run through, see where we've been since last fall, and then end up where we are, currently. So I just picked out some of our PVAP closeouts where the PVAP program is post weaning value added program where we track how the economic benefit of weaning these calves and backgrounding them for 60 plus days post weaning before we sell, right? And so here's one that was back in the fall. Producer weaned in October, sold in December. Pretty typical, scenario for spring calving herds. And you can see back in the fall, we had that bump in the price and whatnot, and we, $300 was pretty common. That was kind of almost an average, back in that time period, right? So we fast forward till this summer, and we had just an incredible increase and improvement in prices, over the summer. And this shows one of the closeouts we had from someone who weaned in May, be fall calving herd, and sold the end of July. And this happened to be at a CPH sale. The previous closeout was from one of the seed stock sponsored sales that was in the Lexington area. So and you can see, so it's been pretty lucrative. So coming into this fall, this December, we just had the CPH sale that I'm involved with at Guthrie. We just had it Tuesday night. And I know there's been several preconditioned sales in last week and this week. This is that time of the year, right? And so it's too soon for me to actually run some real closeouts, actual closeouts from folks who are going to be sending me their data that have participated in those sales. But since I wanted to try to jump the gun and have something let's see kind of where we're at, how much damage did this downturn in prices, did it really hurt our bottom line for people who were trying to add some value? So to do that, I'm basing some of my estimates or figures based off of history that we've built in this PVAP program, the database we've been building. And I know y'all probably folks have seen this. We presented it several times, but we've had since 2023, we've had 52 closeouts and we've actually had more, but this summarizes the 52 closeouts we've had in advanced PVAP since then. And these are experienced folks who are experienced in weaning and preconditioning, right? And I'm grabbing some numbers off of here to kind of put into my estimate for what we did this past fall, right? Until we get the real numbers in. You can see on average, folks in the program have averaged about 32 head. You can't see this number over here, but that's our average daily gain. Well, I can't see it at least. The average daily gain has been running about 2.33 for all of those closeouts. And then feed level, been just shy of 2% body weight. So around 11 pounds of concentrate feed, 8 pounds of forage. So keep those in mind, and we're going to go forward. So here is our our list of consigners. Of course, I blacked out their names, but here's our list of consigners that we had Tuesday night, right? 23 consigners from Kentucky and Tennessee, right? The average weaning date was September 24. And I kicked out two that were yearlings, these May weaning dates. I kicked those out in average. I wanted to get springborn calves, right? So September 24th, December 9th sale, we're talking about 76 days, okay? Here's our sale order that we put together before the sale, right? And all our different classes of cattle and cuts of cattle we're going to be offering, right? And so that 689 head actually showed up, okay? And so that averages from 23 consigners, that's an average of about 30 calves per consigner. So that's kind of uncanny that it's pretty close to what our overall PVAP database is showing, right? Kind of reinforces the fact that we're that small herd, in general. We've got lots of that size herds, right? 30, 40 cow herds. Our split between heifers and steers was 60-40. I should probably reverse that. It should be 60% steers, 40% heifers. Probably wrote that in order. So 18 steers, 12 heifers. And then you can see our weighted average in that sale Tuesday night was 670 on the heifers, 726 on the steers. So we're going to use that 2.3 average daily gain and back calculate to see what their estimated weaning weight was. So kind of follow my logic here. So here's the bottom line of an estimate, I guess you could say, for how we did, maybe at least folks in that were participating in that Guthrie sale. I think this is not going to probably be too far off, on a good estimate, right? So basically 30 calves at this kind of weaning weight. We've got shrink built in from adjusting this on farm weight. This is what the cattle would have sold for of this weight class in Guthrie on September 25th, I think was the closest sale at Guthrie to this deal. And then this is what the cattle sold for on average at Guthrie at these classes here, right? And so you can see, for these 30 head, that on average, in this scenario, this estimated that $7,000 was added to the calf crop by holding that calf post weaning for these 76 days. That's our estimate, right? Which would be a net added value of $232 a head. So if you think back to what 2024 fall was, we're in the 300s. This summer we were in the 3 to 500. We actually had several closeouts hit 500 this past summer. So I'd say we probably took a $100 hit, but this is still very significant returns. And I'm curious to see when some of our producers who are participating in this start sending me their real data, right? We'll have real data from their farm, their own situations, their feeding program. I'd love to see how that compares overall average to what we're estimating here. So not a bad return, and so, again, I get that question a lot. Just soon sell them off the cow. I hear that a lot. There's still money, there's still value to be added here. I think is going back to what Kenny was saying, though we're coming into a time period where man, that livestock risk protection is going to be so important because we're starting at higher value calves. We can't rely on the up in the market, the upward trend in the market to bail us out, right? And so we take a dip, we get some volatility, and it just happens to happen when you're selling. You could take a pretty good hit. So I think LRP, those kind of risk protection things are going to be so important. So anyway, just point out any of these closeouts, anybody can participate in PVAP. If you weigh your calves at weaning, get with your county agent, get a hold of them. We'll all talk and we'll see if you can get you in the program. And I think it's pretty good information, to look at.
Can you
That's all
go
I got
back
there.
one screen?
What's
Could you
that?
go back, could you go back one screen to the list? Yeah, that one.
Right
Is
here.
were those 1,000-pounders there on the
Can
on
y'all
the
see
top?
my cursor when I move it? Can y'all see
Yeah,
it?
I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Talk to me now, Michelle. What
Okay,
now?
so are those your yearlings? Did you not take them out, or were they just big ones?
They're just big ones. I mean, you be honest with you, there's some of, I mean, there's some aged cattle maybe in here, but you'd be surprised. These Charolais that are listed as strictly Charolais, this is a straight Charolais herd, purebred. It has been since the CPH sale started in the early 80s. This man will not cross his cattle, and I guarantee you these are January born Charolais calves.
Hmm.
It's just that kind of herd. Now, I'm not saying all of the heavy cattle are that way, but
Yeah.
these are a lot of folks who have been in this thing for a long time, and they've got a lot of performance in their calves. So
And then they got one 375-pounder in there. It's like
right, that's right. And
that.
what I think we get into, realize these are 23 consigners now. So and that's why we weigh and group them, so we can sort them. But what's interesting though, Michelle, is you bring that up. It's kind of a good point. I always tell folks if you're coming to buy lightweight calves at these preconditioned sales, it's a little bit buyer beware. I would not go under 500, be honest with you.
Mhm.
500 pounds on, you're probably fine. You get into these lightweights, and everybody has that dud calf, that calf that didn't get colostrum, that calf that might be in half orphan or some sort. You got to be careful buying those extremely lightweight cattle in these preconditioned sales. That I always caution folks about that.
Or any sale, yeah, for that matter.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. Yep. Let's see. All right, that's all I got.
All right, appreciate it. If you have any questions for Kevin, pop them in the chat, but we'll keep it moving for now. Gonna head out west again to Dr. Chris Teutsch. He's our forage guy out at Princeton. So, Chris, appreciate you being on, and I'll turn it over to you, buddy.
Okay, let me get my screen shared here. What are you all seeing? Are you seeing a full screen or a presenter view?
No, that's the presenter view.
Let me swap my let's see here, swap. How about now?
Now you're talking.
Okay. I thought I'd just show you 4 slides on some hay quality. We had some real challenges this spring getting hay harvest in a timely manner, and that has resulted in some lower quality hay than we normally have. And every year we do hay contests in different regions of the state. I'm going to show you just 4 slides from the results of the Eastern Kentucky Hay Contest. These are agent-driven programs, so the agents in Eastern Kentucky have been going on more than 25 years with these hay contests. First slide I want to show you is crude protein, and again, crude protein is just an estimation of protein in the forage, and we estimate that by multiplying total nitrogen times a factor of 6.25. On this graph, we have the different classes of hay. On the bottom, we have grass, haylage, legume, mixed hay, which would be a grass legume mixture, and then just all the hay together is that last bar. And then we've got some dotted lines on this graph, and these dotted lines are the requirement for a growing animal, a lactating animal, and then a dry brood cow. And of course, the dry brood cow would have the lowest requirement. And so this is for crude protein. And basically what this graph is showing you that this is the average value for these different hay classes, that on average, that we're going to meet the nutrient requirements of a lactating and a dry cow. So not doing too bad in terms of crude protein. I think a better way to look at that is the number of samples that will actually meet the value, the nutrient requirement. So what I did was, this is the percent of samples from this hay contest, and we had 562 total samples across all the hay classes. And about 60% of those samples, so a little bit more than half, would meet the protein requirement averaged over all the classes of a lactating brood cow. So not too bad. I mean, some of the samples are going to need a little bit of protein supplementation, but not too bad in general. So this is the same thing except for energy. So we always like to talk about crude protein when we go to the country store, but really, most of our forage in the state is going to be lacking more in energy than in crude protein. And this is total digestible nutrients, and that's an estimation of energy value of a feed or forage, commonly estimated on using acid detergent fiber. And that's what these values are, is a moderate energy equation where we plugged in acid detergent fiber. And again, when we look, the graph is set up in a similar way. This is the average values for total digestible nutrients for the different hay classes. And then again, we have the requirement of a dry cow, a lactating cow, and a growing animal. We can see that on average, our hay samples met the requirement of a dry cow, but in most cases, not the requirements of a lactating brood cow. And this is important because, as Les did a nice job pointing out, animals need to stay in condition. So it's important that we have an idea of the forage that we're feeding them and the quality of it. When we looked at the percent of samples that would meet the needs of a lactating beef cow, we're down around 5% for grass hay. So 5 out of 100 samples would meet the energy requirements of a lactating brood cow without supplementation. When we looked at all the samples together, we're somewhere around 6% of the samples would meet the energy requirements of a lactating brood cow. The point that I want to make is that it's important to test your hay to figure out if you need supplement and then what that supplement should be. So the take-home points is that we can't manage something that we don't measure. So it's important to measure hay quality and then be ready to make adjustments. Energy tends to be more of a concern than protein, even though we love to talk about crude protein. And when I look at these results, there's kind of 2 time frames to use these. And the first time frame is immediately to make adjustments in terms of supplementation so that we don't lose condition on cows. And then the second one is to think about next year. What am I going to do next year so that I need less supplement in my system? How am I going to produce a higher quality hay? And then we have a really good tool that Jeff and Kevin developed over the years, and that's the UK beef cow forage supplement tool. And we can use the data from our forage test results to plug into there and figure out what kind of supplement we might need. Of course, it's not a ration balancer, but it really helps us to avoid really bad situations where we do need some supplementation. All right. That's all I have.
Awesome.
Oh, I did. Can I mention one other thing?
Absolutely.
So I noticed on the sheet for bare seam clover that Michelle put up, for some reason it said warm season annual on that clover. It's actually a cool season annual clover. It's used fairly widely in the southern United States to overseed like Bermuda grass pastures that are dormant in the winter months, a lot of times seeded with annual ryegrass. Frosty Bear Seam is a variety that has better cold tolerance that could, in some cases, overwinter here. I still think that if you're going to include clover in your system, you're better off to use a red clover or a red and white clover mix than a winter annual clover like bear seam or crimson clover. The productivity is just going to be higher with those perennials.
Chris, would you mind following up seed shortages? There was some discussion about Kenland Red being somewhat short supply this year.
Yeah, I bought some this fall, but make sure that if you make sure that you get your seed early if you can, and if you can't get Kenland, and if you do choose to use Kenland, and Kenland is still one of our best performing varieties. It's very old, but if you choose to use Kenland, make sure that it's certified seed. Make sure that it's got a blue tag on it because it's a public variety. You can buy bags of Kenland, but if they're not certified, it could be anything in that bag. The other thing is if you can't get Kenland, then go to the variety trials and choose a variety that's locally available, that's a named variety that we know that when we buy that, we're getting the genetics in the bag.
Excellent. Appreciate it, Chris. Chris, there's a question here that I did see pop up on chat that's in your area. I'm going to throw it to you now, if you don't mind. It says,
Sure.
Some pastures have darker green areas that I thought was urine or manure effect, but online grazing video stated it may be sulfur related. Adequate sulfur, dark green, low sulfur, lighter green. Is sulfur likely a culprit? Sulfur is not reported on my extension service soil test.
So my colleague here at the research station has done a lot of work with sulfur in row crops, and we do find sulfur deficiency sometimes, but in general, it's not widespread yet. Now, the amount of sulfur deposition compared to about 25 or 30 years ago has been decreased significantly through the Clean Air Act. So it may be an issue as we move into the future. But I would expect that those spots would probably be more related to nitrogen than sulfur in most cases.
All right, appreciate it. Can you stop sharing, please, sir?
Sure.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague here in Lexington with us, Dr. Jeff Lehmkuhler. He's one of our nutritionists. And what do you have for us tonight, Dr. Lehmkuhler?
Thanks, Darrh. I've just got a couple. Can you see my slides all right? Good. All right. So Chris did a good job of sharing the Central Kentucky, and on average, things look pretty good there. But this is a sample, a fescue sample that came in, and unfortunately, we've seen more of these than what we'd like to see this kind of year. Protein levels down close to 6, TDNs coming in 45. Wheat straw, Chris, will typically come in 43 to 45 on TDN and about 4 to 5% on protein. So these are the ones that we're really worried about. Insufficient protein levels to even support the microbes in the rumen to break down the fiber, and then really this is that belly full of straw starving to death type of hay right here. So I think, be cautious on some of the averages that Dr. Teutsch showed you, because I'd say those maybe come from some better management fields. They're in a contest. So I think it just drives home the need to get out there and pull those samples and get them tested. And Dr. Teutsch, maybe share with the group here too. There's been some changes or some new developments on forage testing opportunities. Dr. Teutsch, you've been working some with the Kentucky State University folks down in Bowling Green, and they're doing everything on NIRS. Is that right?
That's correct. They have they've opened up a forage testing location in Barron County, and they're kind of getting up to speed right now. So they're using near infrared spectrophotometers, it's a FOSS, and it's consortium equations. So I feel pretty good about their equations that they're using to predict the samples with. They're still working some kinks out. So that's where we are.
There's an option for us that is there now. We also, Chris and I and others have been working with UK regulatory services, and they'll be rolling out their Forage testing platform here, Chris, what, in the next week or two?
Yep. So we have many of you may remember that the Kentucky Department of Agriculture has had for a long time a forage testing program that is being moved from the Department of Ag to UK regulatory services. So we're pretty excited about that. We're going to be offering more constituents and very good quality control and better energy estimations in the forage material. So
I just thought I'd throw those up there to follow up on what Dr. Teutsch shared, because it is kind of timely with everything that's gone on this year and trying to get our hay made. And with the value of the calves that are out there, as Dr. Burdine said, it looks good for the next couple of years. We need to do everything we can to get those cows rebred and get those calves on the ground. The other thing I wanted to share is just, kind of technology that we forget about and potential for adding pounds. Even in the program that Kevin shared with you on the PVAP, we can put an implant on those calves, take advantage of that additional weight gain in that 70 to 80 day preconditioned period. And typically what we'd see is a tenth to 2/10 of a pound a day bump from our implants. And so it is a very good return on our investment, and particularly when feeder calf prices are at the price level where they are and the feed costs are low. Another good piece of technology that's out there that I think is underutilized. And then lastly, Michelle, I might ask you to also maybe chime in and comment on this one, but recently Merck was offered conditional approval through FDA for screwworm treatment. And so this product, if I remember right, Michelle's got like a 98 to 100 day withdrawal. Is that right?
I don't know. It is long, but I don't know the exact time on that.
And so this product is, at least moving forward in the event that it gets here. And so we will be able to kind of get on top of those things. And so there's been a lot of questions, about screwworm, because what was 120 miles from the border when they found that last case, Michelle?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Get closer.
So anyways, I just wanted to share that, maybe to put a little bit of reduce the fear, if you will. At least we now have conditional use product out there to help us get this under control if it does get here. And we'll just hope that it doesn't. And so with that, I'm just also going to continue to remind you, monitor body condition score of the cows. It's been a little bit colder earlier, and requirements of these cows are going to be kind of reflective of both the environment and the forage quality and stage of production. These fall calving cows less are the ones I'm a little bit worried about right now, because they came off of the drought. Lower body condition score than what we might have normally seen, didn't have chance to have a lot of stockpile to graze when they were hitting peak lactation, and now dealing with some below average grass that we're putting in these bales. So you're in the heart and heavy heat of breeding right now. And so, keep an eye on these cows, make sure they're getting settled.
One of the reasons, Dr. Lehmkuhler, I brought up the estrus response as being as good as it has been on the farms that I've been on, because certainly wasn't expecting it with the rough fall that we've had.
That's all I got, Dr. Bullock.
All righty, I appreciate it. I'm gonna go over a few things now. If the rest of you guys, the specialists, if y'all would take a look in the chat box, see if there's any questions that pertain to your area that we need to get answered live tonight. If y'all don't mind taking a look, and when I finish up, you can jump on those. All right, just wanted to share real quick with you a couple of things. One is I know we've talked to you guys before about the Beef Systems Analyzer. It's a software that we developed that basically you can walk through that program in different areas. We have one for genetics, we have one for nutrition, forages, repro. So we have multiple of those out there, and you can walk through those, the analyzer, and it will, based on how you answer questions, and those are, the questions are set up so that as you answer one question, it points us in another direction so that we can come up with some recommendations that then once you've answered several questions, it's going to come up with a list of recommendations for improving your herd in that particular area. We also have resources associated with that in the form of videos or some fact sheets or things like that. So it's a nice tool regardless. I would encourage all of you to go on and give it a try. It's pretty easy to register. And we've been making some adjustments to that now to where you can actually do it where you can get a code on your cell phone and not have to remember passwords and all that. So we've been trying to make it a little bit more user friendly. This was funded through the Ag Development Fund, and those guys have now agreed that if producers go on and take these analyzers, two of the analyzers, you have to take the first one, which is what we call the Best Management Practices Analyzer, and then any of the other ones. This can count towards CAIP credit as long as your county agent is on board with it. This is the educational component is in the hands of the county and your local county agent. So as long as they're on board, then that can count as an educational component for CAIP. We're also have it now set up to where once you have completed an analyzer, you will get a certificate. It doesn't mean that you actually went in and did everything we recommended that you should do. Just as long as you got those recommendations, then you get a certificate that you at least completed the analyzer. And those can easily be then emailed to your county agent or whoever is running the CAIP program in your county. You can download it, you can print it. We're trying to make it, again, as seamless as we possibly can. But I do just advise you, just check with your county agent about that. And like I say, I encourage you to use it regardless, but get those CAIP credits if you'd like. The other thing I just wanted to bring up also associated with CAIP there are some significant changes, particularly to those breeds that have IGSs who performs their EPDs or computes their EPDs, and that's going to be like Simmental, Gelbvieh, Red Angus, those breeds. They had a significant change to how the calving ease direct EPDs are computed, which caused us to have to make some modifications to those values in the guidelines. So you'll notice for some of those breeds, it was a bit of a move this go around. It doesn't mean that those breeds changed at all. It's just how the methodology for how they compute the EPDs changed. And so we had to make some adjustments. The other thing to be aware of is that the indexes each year will be modified. We try and keep those other non-index values like calving ease or the growth traits at a constant level. But we would expect the indexes to move on a yearly basis. And so you may see it's generally not going to be a huge move, but we will see some changes year to year on those index values that are accepted. And so that's pretty much it for what I needed to share with you guys. I will remind you of the next meeting of these sessions. It's January 8th. It's making the most of the good years, profits, reinvestments, and tax management in beef cattle operations. Jonathan Shepard is going to be doing that one for us. And so we appreciate Jonathan's willingness to come on and share some of this. It's great to be talking about profits and have to worry about taxes. So that's a good predicament for us to be in right now. So, and for those of you that are getting CAIP credit for tonight's program, The code that goes in under where it normally says presenter's signature, UK Answers is the code that you would put in there. Still needs to be signed by your county extension agent. And so work with your county agent. Don't send anything to me or ask me for, to verify your participation and all. This is how it works. At the state level, we have no input in that whatsoever, other than just providing these educational opportunities. And with that, I am going to open it back up. Do any of you guys have any of those chat questions that you want to try and answer for us? Hop on, please.
There, I'll tackle the mineral one if that's all right.
Sounds great.
Mineral programs start well before the breeding season. There's some good research that was done by the researchers down at Princeton that showed when heifers were depleted of selenium, the length of time to come back to those pre-depletion levels was somewhere between 35 and 45 days. Remember, selenium is one of those that FDA regulates to 3 milligrams per day of supplementation. So we are limited in how much we can actually feed. So you want to make sure that you use a solid mineral program 365 days out of the year. That product that you use will likely change depending on the forages and stage of production of the cows. For example, if we're worried about grass tetany on spring calving cows, or we're worried about grazing some winter wheat or cereal grains in the fall with some fall calving cows, we want to make sure we've got a free choice mineral that's going to be high in magnesium, that 10 to 15% magnesium to reduce grass tetany. Generally in a 4-ounce product, most of our minerals are going to be 3 to 4 ounce intake kind of targets. So if we look at most of them being at that 4-ounce target intake, a solid copper level is going to be a minimum of 1,000 parts per million. And then selenium is going to be at 26 parts per million. Your zinc level is typically going to be 2 to 3 times what the copper level is. So if we're running, for example, 1,200 parts per million in copper, then 3 times that's going to put your zinc level around 3,600 ppms. We don't want to get it too high because it can induce deficiencies in copper and other trace minerals. I agree with Dr. Anderson. I think the research done at Princeton also is pretty clear that, somewhere between 25 to 50% of the selenium should come from a yeast form, and about 25% of the copper should come from an organic or chelated source as well.
Dr. Anderson, looks like you're ready to chime in.
Yeah, I just wanted to, if folks weren't following the chat, John Edwards down in Hardin County, E-Town, asked about blood sampling for pregnancy. We've had blood sampling for pregnancy for quite a few years. We've got several labs, including UK's lab, Dependable Livestock Testing, that will analyze those for you, and they're extremely accurate. They do give you yes or no answers, and both labs do a phenomenal job getting those samples done and communicating with producers. If you want conception date information, you'll need to get a hold of your herd veterinarian to get them to palpate to get conception date information. Also, about 5 years ago now, we have chute side pregnancy tests now available, where you take the blood sample, you mix it in an EDTA tube, you take a pipette, and the pipette comes with it, but then you put that in the cartridge, put a little saline in it. All the instructions are on the package, and within 15 minutes you'll get an answer. And I have found those to be extremely accurate as well. But all you're going to get is a yes or no answer from day 28 of pregnancy on. Sometimes the lines are very faint, but I had extremely good luck with them. You're going to kind of need to be choosy on the day that you do it. You don't really want to take the blood samples and handle that when it's 100 degrees. And likewise, you don't want to do it when it's 0 or super cold either. So pick a decent day. It'd be better for you, better for the cattle, better for the tests. And all three of those methods, blood testing for shoot side or sending it in, or your herd veterinarian, those all three exceptional methods to get pregnancy tests done.
Awesome. Anything else anybody picked up on that wanted to answer? I'll comment on the one. There was one said, after growing up on a larger Clay County farm, I now have 15 acres in Trimble County. What is a good starting place to plan for and determine if a few head of cattle is a good move? That is now or in the future. And Dr. Teutsch chimed in and suggested grazing school, and I agree. Make sure you have your pastures right, but with that acreage, you're probably, I would suggest, and without a lot of experience, I would suggest starting with some stocker calves, and try that. Just with that number, you're only going to have a few cows, then less. The cost of that bull per pregnancy is going to probably run pretty high, and I think just doing it with a few feeder calves to get started with in a stocker operation is probably a good place to start.
Hey, Darrh, can I jump in here and add? I think another good resource, I'm going to plug Les's I Bought a Farm Now What series, and that can be found on that website. And I think that's a great resource to walk somebody from the beginning of what they're going to do at the farm from soil testing on, and that'd be another good, just a series of videos that Dr. Anderson did. That's been what, 2-3 years ago now, right? It was during the pandemic.
During COVID. It was during
Yeah.
COVID. Yeah.
Yep. And that's on. It should be on our webpage, right?
It's all on YouTube. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And I send out the link to our beef videos, and so you should be able to find it within that. That goes out on a pretty regular basis to everybody on the email list.
So it's called I Bought a Farm Now What? So it's the name of it. It's good name, good, clever, catchy name. So
anybody have anything else for the good of the cause?
Oh, one thing, Michelle, are you still on? Kenny, maybe you know.
I'm on. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was looking at them. I was actually looking at that drug that you were talking about, the one that just got approved. But
the indemnity program that was mentioned for recently, there was the potential, looks like, for indemnity on Thaleria. Is that right?
yes, I don't know. Or have they? I have not seen anything on indemnity for Talaria.
Okay.
Is that federal or state?
I can't remember now. I thought I seen something come across the line the other day, and I'll be honest, I don't remember.
Okay.
That's why I thought I'd ask you guys.
We have not seen it. I mean, we've not seen any indemnity. We've certainly seen a lot of positives. So it's definitely here in Kentucky, and it's widespread. We still don't have a treatment. They're trying to get what's it called? There's a drug that's used for malaria. It starts with a B. Nonetheless, they're trying to get it approved, conditional approval for the Talaria, but it's really not. It's not going to. It might work briefly, but it's not going to get rid of it. And plus, it's got a really long withholding. It's over 100 days. So anytime you get those long withholdings, it's a problem.
Okay, so I seen something that came out through KBN. So I would reach out. It looks like there is something. Kentucky beef producers who have experienced cattle losses linked to Talaria may be eligible for financial losses through USDA's LIP program. So there's some information on how to apply. The deadline to report losses that occurred in 2025 is March the 1st of 2026. Veterinary necropsy reports confirming positives, herd inventory records showing numbers, mortality records detailing the dates, numbers, the animals lost, proof of ownership, such as calving records, etc. So looks like there is some opportunity there.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent. Hopefully people won't need it. But good to have it if you do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're a little bit after 9, so I'm gonna shut it down unless anybody has any pressing last minute pieces of information they need to throw out there. Seeing none, I will move on. All right, folks, appreciate it. We'll see you guys all after the holiday on January 8th, but hope everyone has a safe and joyous holiday season, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year. Take care.
Thanks.